I met John a few years ago while working in a soup kitchen in San Francisco called Martin de Porres. We all call it Martin's. As we worked together, we chatted. He told me about his life on the streets, his homosexuality, his drug addiction, and being HIV positive. We decided to tape some of these conversations, hoping it would do some good, informing others about the consequences of abusing drugs.
San Francisco is a very easy city to be homeless in. And being on the streets isn't bad. A lot of my years on the streets were good. Most of my days on the streets were good. It's harsh and hard, but no one tells you what to do or when to do it.
Yeah.
A typical day on the streets, I would wake up and know that the entire day was mine to do with as I pleased and when I pleased. If anything, it's addicting. The lifestyle itself is addicting. You don't fit into society anymore, and so you don't have to try. You're excused. You know, oh, he's homeless. He doesn't have to take a shower for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's homeless. It's okay for him to steal bologna out of Safeway. He's homeless. It's okay to sit there and beg for money and insult people when they don't give it to him. He's homeless. He's been deprived. He doesn't have an education. His father beat him when he was a child. But all these things hold true in what I like to call the real world too. If you sit down and talk to most successful, productive people, they have uglies in their past.
Right.
And hurtful childhoods. We've all heard that old Hollywood romantic thing about honor amongst thieves, and we all have this mental image of some hobos sitting around a tin can with stew in it and stuff. Well, that is strictly a fabrication of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Street people will do anything to anyone and to each other. And I'm not saying that there aren't good street people. There are. I was on the streets for 7 years, and I never felt that I had been pushed onto the streets and just wasn't able to get off the streets. I let myself get onto the streets, and I always felt that it was my decision to remain on the streets, and that no social agency or soup kitchen or my family, I never felt at any time that they owed me something because I was on the streets, because I felt it was my decision to be on the streets, and I still feel that way. So when guys come into the soup kitchen and they're like running their bullshit on me about, hey man, give me this, give me that, I'm homeless. Yeah, it doesn't cut a lot of ice with me. Because except for people who are retarded, very retarded, have severe emotional problems, severe physical handicaps, I think we're all basically on the streets because we choose to be there. I was living beside the freeway with a wino named Joey. And Joey had just got a $700 check. And Joey was basically a wino. He did a little speed now and then. He couldn't even hit himself up. He had to do that for him because alcohol was his primary drug. And I came back to camp one night expecting to find Joey, and some other street people came along and said, they hauled your friend out of here this morning in a body bag. Well, what had happened was some people knew that he had $700 on him, so they shot him up with 2 bags of heroin, and he almost died and would have died if someone hadn't come along immediately and crawled out of the bushes and dialed 911 and waited for the emergency team to come in and save him. And so when I got back to camp and I heard this news, I wasn't upset about Joey, and I've known him for 5 years. What I was upset about was Joey had the cigarettes. And it was dark and I was broke and I was coming down off speed and didn't have a cigarette. And something clicked in me when I felt that. Because I intended to spend the rest of my life shooting drugs. I thought it was enough for me. But when I got to that point that a human being could die, and I was just pissed off, excuse me, about the fact that I didn't have cigarettes. It had really let me know inside what had happened to me. And that was my turning point. I found out I was positive. They were giving out $15 to go test. And so me and this other guy went and tested, and we were going to get a bag. That's the only reason we went to test, was to get a bag of dope. And we both came back positive. And the first year, I decided I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to get medical support or anything. I'm just going to keep shooting my drugs, and when it's over, it's over. And I'd like to say this now too, before I forget it, that while I was using, it was okay to die. Mm-hmm. I just really didn't care either way. It wasn't a real depressed, morose thing. I just didn't care. And that was the chemical in me. And then when I cleaned up, now I'm scared to death. I just went to the doctor the other day and my count has dropped 100. It's a pretty dramatic drop in a month. And now I'm scared to death of dying. I don't want to die. I don't want to be laying in bed full of sores and stuff. And as an adult, I have never been that active sexually. I find one person. And so I feel that I probably became positive through using dirty needles. And now that my health is compromised and my life is compromised, I look back on it and I think, God, what a price to pay, you know. This same doping Joey, who overdosed on the heroin, he and I and another guy were under the freeway one night, getting ready to shoot this gram of speed. And I always carried a needle with me, and I had my needle. And Joey had his, but he broke it, and the other guy didn't have one at all. And so I shot mine, and they said, well, and we didn't have any bleach. They said, well, let me use yours. I said, you can't use mine, I'm positive. And Joey had just been to the doctor and found out he was negative and everything. And so here's this 19-year-old kid and this wino. They wanted that shot so bad that they took my dirty needle, and both of them hit with my needle. It's just that the drug is more important than your health when you're doing it. Yeah. Then afterwards, after you're positive and after you have ARC and you have AIDS or whatever, you look back and you think, God, how could I have done that? It's the same as taking a gun to your head, boom. It's a progressive addiction, and when I started out, I was snorting polite little lines, being very convivial and social, and having a great time. And then the addiction picks up, and you get kind of antisocial, and you get your drugs, and you want to go be by yourself, so you don't have to share them. And pretty soon, being by yourself is a necessary part of the high, and then paranoia starts coming into your highs, and you have to deal with that as a separate issue while you're high. Realizing what's real and what isn't. That isn't the FBI in that car, you know, and they're not watching me. So you get these lines, and you usually team up with a friend, another speed freak, who would, and you got to watch your friend constantly. You know, you can't let your friend around the corner with your money because he's gone. And you go out, and it's not unusual to wait to hit the streets and walk the streets all day long. And you go to your connection. Well, I ain't gonna have it till 6 tonight. So you go out and you hit your second connection. Well, I'm hot. I can't do anything. The police are watching me. So then you're out on the streets trying to cop from people you don't know, and every one of them is trying to do you. Yeah, man, I got the bag right here. Man, Jesus Christ, take it easy. You're dipping in the alley with them. I want to taste the product. I'm not going to give you $100 for a gram of baking soda. God damn, man, I ain't what's wrong with you. You go get me busted. And you go through this. And doing a dirty bag. Let me tell you about doing a dirty bag. Okay, you got your bag of dope, you got your syringe. You're off in the weeds. You need a little water. No water. So you wind up putting spit in the bag to use as water, He drops a piss in the bag to use as water. An empty pop bottle laying in the bushes or a wine bottle to use as water. And your liver will not tolerate the slightest little impurity going into the liver. That if it can't process it, oh, you get sick. So you shoot a dirty bag. Or else there's just dirt in the dope. You know, it's not like you're dealing with Upjohn. They don't give a fuck what's in there. So you shoot a dirty bag, and here's how it comes on. You get the big rush, and everything is fine. And then you start feeling kind of funny. You know something's wrong. From that point, you've got a half hour to crawl in somewhere, because in a half hour, you're going to be laying, sweating, shaking, shitting your pants. It's terrible. And it lasts for anywhere from puking. It lasts anywhere from, depending on how much dirt you took in, anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. So you've got, now you got to find a place to do it. And when you're living on the streets, there's one thing you give up is privacy.
Right.
No matter where you go on the street, someone is watching. Through a window, in a car going by, crawling through the weeds. And so you find some place to go do this fucking shit. So it's dark now, and you need some light. And half the time you're hitting in the dark, you're doing half the shot goes in your vein, half the shit in your tissue, and it stings and it hurts, but you gotta have it in you. All my life I worked with the public. Desk clerk, bartender, waiter, management. Even when I wasn't doing that, nurse's aide, I was always in public contact. I'm a service person. So if you walk into a big hotel and you want a job for $6 an hour as a desk clerk, you have to have a nice smile. You don't have to be good looking, but you have to have a nice smile. Or a bartender or anything. So all my life I took care of my teeth. They were a priority. If I didn't have dental insurance at work, if something happened to my teeth, I'd take on an extra part-time job to have my teeth taken care of. And they were nice. Then I got on the streets and started shooting speed. Toward the end, I ruined my teeth toward the end. I'd do shots that were so big I had to achieve the same high. I had to do these huge shots. And I would get Russian and just like this, and grind my teeth and break them off. There I was, laying on the bed with my porno magazines. And I felt the tooth in my mouth, spit it out. Not a problem. If you shoot, it goes up, and then it plateaus for a long time, like 12 hours if it's a good shot.
Yeah.
And then you start coming down tired, and your mouth hurts, and your feet hurt, everything hurts, and you want another shot. And then along with that, you start getting real horny. And then the stage after that is you get hungry. When you start getting hungry, it's over. You're left mainly with physical sensation when you're on speed. It blocks out love, it blocks out hurt, it blocks out senses of loyalty, honor, commitment. There's only one thing that you're interested in, feeling good and getting more of it to feel good. That's it. There is no more. I had to get to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to do it. And the whole high thing changes. It turns around and bites you in the ass. Like when I quit shooting, the best part of my high was the 3 days and nights that I was able to sleep comfortably after I'd been on a high. So the best part of the high was after the high was over. The monster is off your back. You just fed the monster, and so he goes off in the corner and sleeps. And you have some peace. And you can sleep, and you can talk to a friend without thinking, drugs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of sick that you spend all your income on a high that beats the shit out of you, and the best part of it is when it's over. That particular view is beautiful at night.
So this was home, huh?
Oh, I'll show you where. It's been home many times. and in different places. Over on the far end, it goes way in underneath the building, and that's where me and Wino Joey and a few others used to do our speed.
Now you mean up there in that crack up
Yeah.
there? In the darkness?
Yeah, up in the darkness, and we had mattresses in there and everything. And this fence wasn't on there. The last time we had a big fire in there, they put the fence up.
What happened to Wino Joey?
Nothing. He's still around. One time he fell from the top of that train ledge down to the tracks. And he was okay.
He was okay. Supple, huh?
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
This here is the remains of a camp. They probably pulled it out from the hole there.
John, what's the connection between all this religious stuff that we see around here, and what is the connection between street people and the religious stuff? I mean, where's the religious stuff coming from?
I'm not sure. I know that in addiction, I think it's safe to say that most street people are either addicted to alcohol or drugs. And there's a man named Jelinek, Dr. Jelinek, and he made a chart charting the progression of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And in the final last phases of addiction, you'll find some of the characteristics of the final stages before insanity and death are vague religious convictions, peculiar sexual habits, that type of thing. And that's what you usually, when people get on the streets with their addiction, that's kind of usually where they're at. You know, their sex is screwed up. You'll find that they either are very, very passionately searching for God, or very passionately denying that He exists. For me, it took to becoming totally bankrupt. I had nothing inside of me. You gotta find someone to talk to. Therapy works. All these self-help groups work. AA works, NA works, stress management works, church works. I was very lucky, very, very lucky to have my Martins family that supported me. After like the first 30 days, they said, well, shit, maybe he's not lying to himself and to us. Maybe he's really trying.
Part of the things that's fabulous about John is that he totally comes back and takes responsibility and learns from the time that he's been in the darkness. And I would say that at this point, we're definitely into our full bloom spring with him. But it's not like we haven't had dark winters, and it hasn't tested this community a great deal, which has been fabulous for us to have to really see how deep reconciliation and love go, or if it's just a bullshit concept that you say to people. And John, probably more than many people here, has tested that concept to the max.
There's people like this out there for everyone. People who will love you and take an interest in your life. You got to go find them. I wouldn't have been able to make it this short time I've made it without Carol and Mim. And I tax them, and sometimes I can't even hide it, you know. Sometimes I go, oh, God, I don't know if I'm ready for John Boy today. But because they love me, they try and be ready. I guess what I'm saying, if you're hurting, is find someone who will care about you.
You know where everything goes in this kitchen?
Oh,
And then some.
pardon?
You know where everything goes in this kitchen.
Yeah, I worked here for a long time. Let's see, maybe 5 years. Sometimes putting in a 40-hour week. That was never asked of me, but there were times when you know from working here, when the crew would be short or something, that you would just come in. And this was my home and family, and still is, even though I don't work here anymore. I feel very much a part of the Martins family. One day I was sitting at the soup kitchen looking like a lost soul, and Charlie came up to the table and he said, "John, is anyone sitting here?" And I said, "Please do." It was like Charlie, I think the impact of what Charlie said was its simplicity. He was letting me know that if I wanted to stop beating my head against the wall, probably no one would mind.
Right. I think I just went up to you and said, "When are you going to stop beating your head against the wall?"
No, he
What'd I
said, your exact words were, "John, when are you going to quit punishing yourself?"
Oh, right, that was it, right.
And I said, "Charlie, I'm cold, I'm wet, do I have to make decisions too?" And you said, "I think so, John, you're the only one in the equation."
Sounds good.
It was like the blinding light came down on me. I said, "Holy shit, my father's been dead all these years. I am the only one in the equation. And all the people that love me, I'm still the only one in the equation." And it was like Charlie told me, helped me realize that it would be okay to stop if I wanted to. And if I didn't want to, that would be okay too. But I never felt that I had that much room inside that ugly little thing that I could stop it, or that much control. And suddenly, at that point, I realized I didn't make a decision to stop anything, but I did go so far as to think, if I want to stop it, I'm the only one it can come from. And everyone that I was punishing is dead. So if I were to want to stop, I could. And I've never forgot that. It's like these simple things are so difficult.
During his recovery, John started using again. He moved out of his hotel and back on the streets, and we lost touch. Recently I got a call from John saying he had been clean and sober for more than a year, that he now had full-blown AIDS, and that he wanted to finish our project. He invited me to his apartment in Peter Claver House, a Catholic hospice, and after proudly showing me his new teeth, we talked about the newsletter he was editing.
An arched doorway with a light in it, and that's going to be in there someplace. And we recently started using computer pictures. And we have features in here. I wrote an article on CMV retinitis. And we thank people for doing things in here.
Do you enjoy the community aspect of it, of this life?
Well, it's wonderful for me because when I need to be alone, everyone in the house knows that if my door is shut, don't knock on it. So when I need to be alone, I can come in here, and I frequently need a lot of time alone. And when I need people, or if they need me, they're just on the other side of the door. And if I were living in some cheap hotel room all by myself, I'm confident that I wouldn't be clean right now. I finally had to admit to myself that I am not a strong enough person to stand all by myself. And that's as it should be. But it was a very hard thing for me to take inside and deal with. The sobriety, the recovery that I was in when you and I were filming before was very forced.
and very scary. And I was running so fast not to let the drugs catch me again. And in this recovery, which I've been clean and sober for about 1.5 years now, I just let it happen. I'm not chasing it, I'm not trying, I'm just letting it happen. And it feels so good to just let life happen, you know, because I never did that. And I don't miss drugs. And I don't try to block them out anymore. You know, I think about doing a shot. And the thought comes, and I think about it, and it goes. It doesn't stay in there and build and build and build. So I'm very happy. I didn't know I could ever be happy without chemicals, but I am. I said for many years, probably the greatest thing that I would want, if I could pick anything I wanted from the Good Fairy, I would want some peace inside. And letting these kind of thoughts come in and do what they're going to do and leave gives me so much peace. And I love boredom. I love quiet days with nothing to do. And I'm not running from anything anymore. Everything just came together in this 1.5 years. And being a Christian, I tend to think of it as a miracle. The last time we were filming, I think I was HIV positive or early ARC. I can't remember which. And now I have full-blown AIDS. And I had 2 T cells left. They were Joe and Frank, but they moved out. And right now I'm just a target for any infection that wants to come along and finish me off. And initially, that was very scary. Scary isn't a good word. Terror would be a better word. Quiet terror. And when I'm afraid of something, when I'm so frightened to death that I can't even run any further, I have to turn around and take that something and look at it and face it. And that's what I did with my disease. And I have a certain amount of anxiety about it. But I'm also a person who is scared to death to go for a job interview. On some days I don't even want to walk in the store and buy a pack of cigarettes, and just too much for me, you know. And I'm just at peace with my disease. One of the beautiful things about having something that you can't change is there are no options. The only thing you can do is fight it or accept it. And to me, it's easier to accept it. And so when I look at it that way, I don't feel like I'm being ripped off. I've had a very full life, a lot of good times, a lot of bad times, but none of it's been boring. And I've affected a lot of people as they have me, some good, some bad. I just don't have a lot of questions or complaints. And I work on acceptance to bring my disease to me and bring death to me. Death is my friend. I talk with death sometimes. I get up at 4 in the morning and sit in the dark and smoke and cough and gag like old men do. And I talk with death, and death is waiting for me as a friend who's going to take me to where I need to go next. I was left with a real simple thing. I have AIDS, it's going to kill me. I can spend that time in fear, in depression, in anxiety, or I can spend that time living my life the way I want to.